Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Lucy, and I thought I would do a series on mental health, on mental illness. I suffer myself from bipolar 2 disorder. Bipolar 1 is different than bipolar 2. Bipolar 1 individuals have chronic mania. Bipolar 2 has hypomania. So in my case, I've never had a full-blown manic attack. I've always been either hypomanic with creativity, which I love, but you always know there's a cycle with this. Either you'll be hypomanic for 2 or 3 weeks, and following that hypomania, you will crash into a low depression. It is a cycle, and a lot of people in the world that do not understand bipolar illness just like to go around saying, oh, they're crazy. No, they're far from crazy. Bipolar people are so very highly intelligent, and the illness is genetic with also components of the way you were raised. So in my case, I had a helicopter mother and I had a father that liked to indulge and enable. So that's not healthy for an individual when you're growing up. I got many mixed messages from both of my parents. And also, I had an incident that occurred to me that caused severe post-traumatic stress disorder when I was 21 years old. So I'm going to start this episode when I thought and when I remember the illness coming on to me. And it's sad because I remember living in Hawaii, and I'm 13 years old, and I started feeling really down. And I'm in the 7th grade, and I just started feeling that I didn't want to go to school. I felt not myself. I didn't want to be around my friends, and none of this was something that I'd ever felt in my life. Here I am, living in paradise, going to the beach every day, going to birthday parties often, playing with my friends. The things that we used to do, I still remember to this day. The games we played at night, the shenanigans we got into, they were hilarious. We got into some shenanigans. The best one I remember, this is hilarious, I'm going to tell it. Here it is. I don't know why our parents allowed us to stay out so late at night, but we're sitting, about 7 of us. We'd been playing kick the can, hiding in people's backyards, hiding in their gardens, hiding in their, what do you call those things that you put your plants in? Greenhouses, making a bunch of noise, just being malicious, not malicious, but being not sarcastic. What word am I looking for? Being little turds. Yeah, we were being just kids that you don't want in your yard, especially after 10:30 at night. But we're little hoodlums, don't know no better, I guess, and laughing our little butts off that because we're playing kick the can or hide and go seek one, and so then after doing all that craziness, somebody called the police on us. So we're sitting on the side of the road in front of my house, and somebody said, "Oh my God, here comes cops." I said, "Don't run, don't run." I'm sitting right in front of my house. All of us are sitting in front of my house. And I said, "Don't run, whatever you do, because if you do, we're for sure doomed. So he pulls up real slow. Now this guy must have been slow in the head, like a real doofus. And he leaned over and he says, have y'all seen about 6 or 7 kids running around up and down this street? They said it was on Capo Street. And we sat there and we looked all innocent. We're far from it. We said, no, sir. We haven't seen any kids. Because here we are, 13 years old, teenagers. So we thought he was talking about kids, But we really knew what he was up to. So he goes on, and the street goes around a curve. And the minute we didn't see those tail lights, we got up, ran into each other, about to pee on ourselves, laughed our butts off, and we went home. So as kids, I was always mischievous, always getting into things. But I remember, like I said, when I turned 13 years old, I started feeling down in my spirit, or in my mind. I knew something wasn't right. Something just wasn't right. And I didn't know how to explain it. I mean, what do you do as a teenager? Is this hormonal? Do you go to your mom and say, something's wrong, Mom? Go to your dad, something's wrong? So finally I told my mom, I said, Mama, I don't know how to explain what's going on with me, but I really feel sad. And she said, why? You have everything that you could ever want in life. You're living in paradise. You have the best of clothes. You're living in a home overlooking Pearl Harbor. I'm thinking in my mind, you don't get it, Mama. You're not hearing me. Something's wrong. And this depression went on for months. Like, you put on a happy face, try to act normal, like everything's okay, but inside everything's not okay. And finally it went away. And I remember my mom saying, how have you been feeling lately? And this was months later. And she said, I think I know what was wrong with you, Lucy. You're missing your sisters. And I'm thinking, I've always missed them. That's another thing I think that caused, my genetic illness to surface. To lose your sisters. I lost one of my sisters at 9 years old, and one of them at 7 years old. So I had to be an only child from there on. So the next time this monster hit me of an illness was when we moved from the United States to the Philippine Islands. And I remember I thought, why is my dad doing this to me? I'm very popular in my school. I'm a cheerleader. I've been with all these same kids finally for 4 years, and he's taken me from Missouri all the way around the world to the Philippine Islands. And I remember when we left Missouri, we ended up in NOLA, New Orleans, to fly out of New Orleans to go to LAX, and LAX to Hawaii, and then Hawaii to Guam, then Guam to the Philippines. And I remember, the lighting in here is coming and going, I don't know why, but I remember when we got to NOLA, I just started getting the shakes, and I didn't feel right. And my dad goes, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? And I said, I don't know. And he says, I know that you used to smoke. Are you still smoking? Are you having withdrawals from cigarettes? I thought, well, I could have a cigarette right now. I just had a nervous stomach, and I had my brakes on, and in my mind I was like, I don't want to leave my friends. I don't want to go to another country. And there was no stopping this. I was I was 17, so I wasn't old enough to just, run away, I guess. So now I'm doing this on the fly, y'all. So we get in the Philippines, and I try my best to acclimate myself, because, of course, my parents made me go to school. Didn't want to. I had my brakes on. So I go to school, and in the Philippines in 1977, these people that had lived there, these young people my age, didn't know the same music anymore. They'd been there 3 or 4 years already, so everything was behind the United States. Everything, every TV show, everything. So here I am in culture shock. If it wasn't for the maid that my dad hired that lived with us, I don't know what I would have done, because I got so depressed. And my dad took me to a psychologist there. Let me get a drink. And the psychologist told them she's just in culture shock. I'll keep working with her, and hopefully she'll come around. Well, I came around some, and I made a few friends at school, and I did the best I could at school. But I was like, even in my senior year over there, I was hating everything. And I remember in geography class, I'm sitting there in geography, and I couldn't stand this teacher. This teacher was a weirdo. Y'all, I'm just going to use this platform just to talk like therapy. This man, I wish I had a comb in here, would give us our lesson, and then he would sit there, and he'd put a piece of paper in front of him, and he would comb his comb over, and he'd comb and comb and watch the dandruff just fall out of his head. He just grossed me out. I just wanted to throw up. It was sickening. And so he didn't like me, and I didn't even care, because it was, look, it was mutual. I didn't like him either. So one day he was sitting there, and he said my last name, but I'm going to say, he said, Lucy. And I said, yes, sir. Even though I didn't want to say sir, because I didn't like this man. He said, are you married or something? I thought, oh my God, why did he ask me such a thing? Listen to that. That's my cat. Crying. But I said, no, sir, I'm not married. And I said, why would you ask such a thing? He said, because right now in this class, I'm just being nice. You should have an F, but I gave you a D minus. And I thought, because I don't give a damn about your class. And that's never been me. So I knew something was wrong. More than just not liking this man. Because that wasn't me. Because when I came from Missouri, I was a 3.9 to a 4.0 student. You could not be a cheerleader for 3 years like I was. And they would bench you if you went below a C average, or your grades started falling, they benched you fast, because you had to have good grades to be on the team as a cheerleader. So I didn't like him. I just didn't like the man. And I didn't like, I mean, I loved, the Philippines was like Hawaii. It was paradise. It really was. And I really liked being there. But I didn't like, I mean, I grew to like being there, but I missed my friends like you would not believe. I missed them tremendously. So after seeing the psychologist for about 3 months, finally he said, I hate to do this to my father, he said, but she needs to go in the hospital because she's not progressing like I thought she should. And so here I go into this, well, it's a military mental hospital, and he diagnosed me with severe depression, and really homesickness is he added to it. And honestly, it was kind of cuckoo. And I don't say that to be making fun of mental illness. It was just, here I am with these older soldiers, and I got really close to some of these ladies because they watched over me. They made me like their little sister. And I stayed like, I think, 2 weeks. And then they had one officer that would walk me. He had to make sure where I was at all times and take good care of me and take me to eat and to bring me back. And I seen some crazy stuff. And that's when those things scared me, because I said, I know I have depression, and I know mental illness runs in my family. Now see, at that time, we didn't know that my mother was bipolar too, also. Now, I hadn't been diagnosed with bipolar yet. We just thought I had severe chronic depression. And my mom didn't get depressed till in her late, I think till she was like 60. We just thought that she was, when she had mania, we just thought that she was just superwoman, super mom. There's nothing my mom couldn't do. She kept our house immaculate. There was even a sign, a sign outside of our house that said, take off your shoes before entering. Now, can you imagine how much I hated to tell my friends, you better take your shoes off, because my mom is, our house has to be perfect. Our house has to be, there can't be any dust or, I mean, she mopped the floors every day. Sometimes when Mom was mopping the floors into 2 and 3 in the morning. Thank God when we lived in the Philippines, we had a maid to help her out, because at that time, I think she was probably about 55 years old. Maybe younger. I can't remember. Maybe 50. But back to the hospital. I remember one time we were walking to, I know I'm rambling. I got ADHD too, so just deal with me. You can always click off the video, or you can stay with me and let me entertain you a little bit with some of my stories. But so we were going to go eat, and I'm walking with this officer, and I enjoyed going with him because he was really good looking. That helped a little bit. And he was really nice to me and very uplifting, and would, tell me, you're going to be fine, Lucy. This is just a short period in your life, and you're going to come out of this and be stronger than ever. So we're walking to go eat, and all of a sudden we hear laughing over our head, and then all of a sudden somebody started throwing these, they call them kumquats, and hitting us in the head with them. And we look up, and it was some guy that had escaped from the mental ward. And so instead of getting to go eat, we finally did get to go eat, but the officer that was taking care of me had to call back up and to get this guy down out of the tree and get him back to the mental ward. But it really did scared me because I thought, oh my goodness. Now, when I had my severe depressions, I never thought that, I'm going to end up like some of the people I seen in the hospital. I just was wanting more than anything to go back to Missouri, be with my friends again. So I'm going to end right here, and I'm going to pick up again and tell you more about what happened. I mean, how I enjoyed my tour there. Finally, I came out of my depression. And then when I went back to Missouri, what happened then. And so until I come back in again, we'll talk more about depression, bipolar illness, and my journey with bipolar illness. And I'll get into some medications that I've taken and so on and so forth.